Hey, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you joining the show. This is On the Block Sports, where we have a podcast that's, guess what? Going to talk about sports. This is the very first episode of On the Block Sports, and I do want to say thank you again once more for joining. Now, the biggest thing I would say we're going to talk about, of course, what's popular, what's on the national scenes, what is the very first thing you see on those national sports shows. But this is also going to talk about some other things that aren't always the most popular topic. We might get into some WNBA, some tennis, some boxing. I love this year. 2023 has been an amazing year for boxing, but it doesn't seem like it gets covered all that often. So you really have to be within that boxing community to get exactly what's going on. But all the sports. You can be talking about Olympics. We could be talking about FIBA. It doesn't really matter. Soccer, NFL, and the NBA. So NHL, something I'm definitely going to get into a little bit more. Uh, Golfing, whatever it is. This is the podcast. We want to say welcome to On the Block Sports, the very first episode. And with that being said, my two favorite sports are basketball and football. And if you want to talk about exactly what's going on, we will get into some of the most popular topics. For example, the first thing we'll go ahead and talk about today is the DeAndre Hopkins deal. Uh, in the NFL, you also had Saquon Barkley and his contract situation going on up in New York. And then we also have Joel Embiid. I want to go ahead and talk about him a little bit because he's starting to say some things that you wouldn't really expect coming out of Philadelphia. So let's go ahead and first talk about this DeAndre Hopkins deal. DeAndre Hopkins, he made a decision. He has a new team from Houston to Arizona. And now DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a Tennessee Titan. The news was that he was going to be either signing with uh, a contender for a minimum deal, or he was going to go with the Patriots. Another was the Titans, and I believe he went on visits with both the Titans and the Patriots, so you knew they were both being heavily considered by D Hop. So we got Nuke. What's going to happen here is he signed a deal with, let's see here, signed a deal with the Tennessee Titans, 2 years for 26 million, which is 13 annually. That's going to put him right in the range of what the top receivers got in free agency this year. And it actually makes sense. You wouldn't expect DeAndre Hopkins, who's known to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, to really take a disrespectful offer for his talent. And of course, you want to say for a chance to win the Super Bowl. That's one thing he doesn't have is a Super Bowl, but that's not guaranteed no matter where you go. So DeAndre Hopkins, why sacrifice millions of dollars? Millions of dollars. That's a lot of money. He's talking about either signing for a few mil or you can go ahead and get 13 mil. That's a $10 million difference per year compared to what people were saying he should go for just for the chance to win a Super Bowl. And I understand it's about legacy, but if you're not a quarterback, I believe every position should chase the bag. And that's just how it is. The situation there in Tennessee, the other big name signing I thought was really interesting how Odell Beckham Jr. signed with the Baltimore Ravens for 1 year with $15 million contract and 13 million was guaranteed. So whenever you look at exactly what happened here, the two biggest names, wide receivers that were available this offseason, signed for about the same deal. They're both, of course, up there in age, but without a doubt, the two best receivers that were available this past summer, this offseason. So once again, Odell Beckham Jr. and DeAndre Hopkins both have a contract that are very comparable. Now, in my opinion, I think he chose the right place to go to because New England. Those were the two that everybody was really thinking the dueling parties here. Would he be a Patriot or would he be a Titan? the Patriots got a lot of love lately, and I definitely understand why. You're talking about Bill Belichick, who is one of the greatest, if not the best, head coach ever in the game of football. Now, what we really get to see here is there's a lot of question marks. Are there going to be too many question marks for Bill Belichick and the Patriots to overcome to be a successful team this year? The the thing I think you've seen a lot in the national media is people were saying he made the wrong decision and he was just chasing the bag. I also heard that Tennessee is the place where star receivers' career, where their career, or where they go for their career to die, and that's Julio Jones. I forgot Randy Moss even signed there, and it's just things that you see across the media. A lot of them were killing DeAndre Hopkins for signing, and he made the right decision. If I were a player, I would go somewhere I'm needed, somewhere that's going to pay me, somewhere who has a higher likelihood to be in the postseason. We forget Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel for the Tennessee Titans were the number one seed. I think it was this past 2 seasons ago. It may have been this past year. However, Ryan Tannehill led this team to be the number one seed. And then you also look at they don't have a wide receiver on the roster besides for Traylon Burks, who was a receiver they drafted last year. There's a lot of question marks about who he can be in this NFL level. So, as a player, if I'm DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to be getting a heavy amount of targets. This is something that he has accomplished before. Whenever you look at the Houston Texans situation, they're a garbage team. Even whenever Deshaun Watson was not the QB, he balled out. No matter who the wide receiver group was, no matter who the quarterback was, no matter who the coach was, DeAndre Hopkins is somebody who can get it done. He still has the sticky hands. He may not have ever been the blazing speedster that you see out of Tyreek Hills, but at the same time, he's somebody who's a top receiver in the NFL. Undoubtedly the number one wide receiver option in Tennessee. So I think he will thrive. Whenever you look at the recent history, you know exactly the Tennessee Titans are a team that's going to be in the playoff hunt. They had a bad year last year, but the Patriots, they have not been good ever since Tom Brady chose to depart and went to Tampa Bay. Bill Belichick has been very suspect. The Patriots organization has not been good. They have a first year offensive coordinator, rather the first year being in New England as the offensive coordinator, and they just came off of Mac Jones, who's still a question mark, who hasn't really he hasn't seemed to be that guy yet, and we all think that he will be, but there's questions. They got Bailey Zappi being his backup quarterback. Uh, you have a ugly situation last year where the defensive coordinator was their offensive coordinator. How will that play out this season? And what was true? What was not? As a wide receiver, there's a lot of questions you think about when you go there to New England. Will you even get the ball? There was a game where I believe it was 6 pass attempts just a couple years ago with Mac Jones, the quarterback, and Bill Belichick. He's not going to be afraid to run the ball. Of course, the Titans will also, but when you have 6 pass attempts, that is just terrible. And I definitely understand. You're going to have to change who you are as a player. You're going to be expected to do so much more as a man that, I mean, of course, you're a role model, but the New England way has never been really conducive to all players in the NFL. And we've seen that time and time again. And they got away with it in the past because you had a Tom Brady on the team. So my opinion is DeAndre Hopkins, he made the right decision. The Tennessee Titans were paying. They're probably going to be in the playoffs more likely than not. Whereas the Patriots, we have no idea if that's actually going to be a thing. The Patriots, what I have not seen them in the playoffs and be a contender or even like sniff the playoffs and people be afraid of them. Now, Derrick Henry, he's going to open up a little bit more of a passing attack for DeAndre Hopkins. The Patriots, they have Ramondre Stevenson, but that's not Derrick Henry. Now, that was the two options he could have chose and got paid. Of course, the Titans probably paid more than the Patriots because they have Bill Belichick, once again, in New England. Principles. His principles can get in the way sometimes, and he's not chosen to be that great of a GM whenever it comes to putting a team together or putting talent around the whole team. And the other option was choosing to do a minimum deal to either be with Buffalo or to be with Kansas City or to be with the Jets. Those were things that I just didn't see happening because, once again, as I said way earlier, the Super Bowl is never guaranteed.